to today's session. Thank you for making the time to attend, and greetings from Autism Care Youth. As we start our meeting, I would like to request you to, if you would like to follow up our work, please click on our social media: Facebook, Autism Care Uganda; Twitter, Uganda Autism; Instagram, Autism Care Uganda; and LinkedIn, Autism Care Uganda. There you can be updated about our latest events, our latest activities, and also we'll share some exciting news about autism care in a few minutes. So we are a parent-led organization that seeks to provide support to parents of children with autism. We give them information and help them interact with each other, as well as providing services for children with autism. And the center also has a shop for supplements for autistic children or people, and we do, and these the proceeds from this charity shop go towards raising awareness on autism. And today I'm excited to introduce to you our would like to introduce to you our speakers today that are very knowledgeable about today's session. So the session title is Appropriate Education for Children with Special Needs. And we have two amazing speakers, Ms. Claire Wavamuno and Ms. Jennifer Sensi. And they will be discussing appropriate education options for children with special needs. I will introduce our first speaker, and that is I will introduce the two speakers, and then we'll have the first speaker start the discussion. We have Claire Wavamuno, and Claire Wavamuno is born and bred in Uganda. She's an Ashoka Fellow for pioneering integrated special education in the country by leading the establishment of Hill Preparatory School, a school where special needs children with learning disabilities are integrated with their regular counterparts for the mutual benefit of both categories of children in not only education, but also assessments, therapy, vocational training, and job readiness. The disabilities that Hill Preparatory targets include speech, language, autism, communication, behavior disorders, dyslexia, Down syndrome, etc. Her background is in bank supervision and pioneering the evolution of formal microfinance in Uganda, and has worked in several countries in Africa, including South Africa, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, and Uganda. Claire holds postgraduate parts in Masters in Investment, Appraisal, and Management from Harvard University. The Chartered Secretary majoring in Administration and Finance from the London School of Accountancy. Has the Professional Microfinance Training, both Parts 1 and 2, from the Economic Institute of University of Colorado, Boulder, USA, and has a bachelor's in economics and rural economy from Makerere University. Claire loves to share the love of God in and outside the work environment. Wow, amazing work, Claire. Well done. Then I'll go to our next speaker, that's Jennifer. Yeah, I've been calling you Jennifer. I don't know if that's Jennifer is the other version. Sorry, Jennifer, you're muted.
Good morning to everyone. So it's Jennifer. Yeah, it's writing with the Y, but it's Jennifer, and the last name is Chensi.
Chensi, okay. So Jennifer has 13 years of professional experience as a social educator, including designing life skills and social education programs for people from East Africa, Eastern Europe, Latin America, India, and Pakistan in youth center settings. In the last 6 years, she has specialized in learning disabilities and skilled in designing individual and educational plans and implementation systems to track behavioral development in children. She has also been delivering trainings to teachers with focus on practical strategies to meet learners' needs, including adaptations, modifications, and accommodations of learning materials and trainings to staff from nonprofit organizations on disability inclusive programming throughout project cycle. Furthermore, Jennifer trained parents on positive parenting behaviors and has worked with teachers and parents around behavioral change towards children with disability. She is passionate about developing the best practices to promote parental involvement to encourage inclusion. Yes, that's Jennifer for us. You're very much welcome, Jennifer. We're excited for this session. And
Thank
the
you for
floor
having
is,
me.
yes, Jennifer will discuss individualized education plan, that's the IP. So please carry on.
Good morning to everyone. Hope everyone had breakfast and everyone is doing well. I'd like to thank all Southeast Uganda for this invitation. I'm very pleased to be here with you all, and I'm also apologize in advance because I cannot stay for longer than an hour. And as of today, Saturday, I have like some things to run with my son, and so I apologize for that. Saying that, the way we will move throughout this conversation is so I will go through and then allow time for question for each theme, as I have experienced that throughout like talks or discussions, we put so many topics and themes, and by the end of the session, sometimes it's a struggle to recall what the first topics were, and sometimes like happen that someone has a question, but those questions are forgotten. So it's easy to move and break things by chunks, no? And so if Christine is, if you agree with that, I would like to move in this way, instead of waiting for me to talk about everything through and then allow for questions. Are you okay with this, Christine, or?
Yes, that's okay.
All right. I mean, it's going to be difficult we are 29 participants here today, and I will be talking of IPs. So it's easier when we are actually looking at our faces, so I can see hands and faces. And so I don't know if any of you as a parent has ever had or heard about IPs or what they are. So I will start with the basis and allow for questions later, as I said. What is an IP? It's an individualized educational plan, can be called like that as well, or an individualized educational program. It means it's usually used in a school setting where people who are involved in the support and help of the child meet together, come together to develop a plan for the child. In this specific, sorry, my son, yes, Diego. Sorry, wait a second. I apologize. Please give me just 1 minute. I need to sort it out something with my son. I'm so sorry. Sorry, I apologize for that. So as I was saying, it's usually a document used in a school setting, and can be defined as a plan or a program. And how that happens, usually the people who support your child meet together in a room and discuss about the areas of need to focus on throughout the school year. Usually are taken into account your child's strengths, your child's challenges by that moment, are usually put it together also the strategies that will be carried on throughout the year. They are also put it in place how the evaluation will occur, how often, like every 2 weeks, every month, and who will take care of running those evaluations. Usually there is also, there is decisions where and when the group will meet, throughout the year. Like they will be in contact every 3 months, every 6 months. I mean, each school have their own ways to carry on the communication around their the IPs. One important thing is to about these documents is that it really allows teachers, parents especially, and that is when I recommend for parents to be on it and be involved around your children's educational, individualized educational plans, because that allows you to follow from where they have started, which strategies are carried on to support his learning and his development. And at the same time, also give you, and okay, here we are, and when we need to start to focus in another area, no? And so this is it's like a sort of picture and photography of your child's progress throughout the year. And that also give you a wonderful source of knowledge, either if you are moving to one school to another, either if you're changing country. It is a sort of archive that you have around your child on which is there, which strategies have been used, on where he has been has gone so far, and which skills he has acquired as well. And I mean, one of who is involved in this process, because we have said around who, I mean, everyone who actually supports the child, but we are talking about psychologists, we are talking about if the child has a one-on-one aid, so that person is also there. If the child is working with an occupational therapist, the person is also there. Speech language therapist is the specialist is also there. So parents are always there. And the parents, sometimes this is like specifically for parents. Parents play an important role because you are the first, the first to advocate for your child needs, no? And it is important to be on top of your child's IP and working with the school to keep and to take time to do this effort, because this ensures that your child's and supports are put in place. It's important that you keep communication, and then the communication is kept open so that you can ensure that those strategies that have been decided are actually being carried on. Because sometimes what happens, this incredible tool that is the IEP, often in my experience is like a dead letter, no? It's great and it looks beautiful, it looks amazing, but carry on and keep on track on those things are actually the difficult part. And having a parent who is like totally involved on it, is on top of it, like this thing has been put it in place, how are you doing, how is like the evaluation, how everything is going on, is important because keeps everyone on the team working for your child accountable for their actions and work. And also, let me just look. This is what I'm. Yeah, I think I have like mostly said what I like to say around this, but I like to maybe open for questions, and because sometimes it's difficult for a speaker to choose what to say around a particular thing, and then sometimes we miss the point of what the audience, the participants are actually um, um, they want to know, no? And so I like maybe to open to questions, and then you can ask me, even you can also write direct to me, or we can have you, coming in also by talking, or you can also write the questions to me, so I will be able to read and then answer to your question, if that's okay.
Yes, Jennifer, please continue, and then we'll
Yeah.
have people
Okay,
there.
so one thing that I forgot to say, that's actually is one of the essential thing around IP, is that the first step, of course, is to have an evaluation of your child. That means that you need a diagnosis from a specialist, so that from there you can, do we have a standard? So I have a question here. And so, no, I mean, I think it's this. I mean, in Uganda, you don't have the standard IP. I mean, from my experience, I haven't found one. Unfortunately, my computer froze, and so I'm using my husband's computer, and so I would like to share what I use as an IP when I work with parents. But what I'm going to do is to forward it to Christine, and once I sorted out my problem with my computer, and so that she can share with the people who are in this meeting, so you can have an example. But there is standards. There is many that it can be found also on the internet, on the network, but it's really, how do you say it? They're a bit technical in one way, because they are carry on for different type of disabilities or challenges, and it is important also to choose something simple. So you have to imagine that you have blank documents of words where you put the child's name, where you put the child's school, the grade, and and also one thing that I forgot talking to say, that is important to remember when we are designing IPs, or when we are writing down the document, it's important to take into account not the chronological age of your child, but the development age of your child. This is important, so that all the goals are also aligned with his ability. We will not like to put something that goes farther beyond his potential, because that will stress him or her up, and we will not obtain our desired goal. And yes, so there is many. So to answer to that question, yes, there is many standard IEPs, and schools use different ones, but usually they are in a really simple form. That means, just to be clear, name of the child, grade, development age, chronological age, for how long will be the IP valid from where it's was going to be about, like the entire school year, or just for half of an year, because sometimes it's broken down in that way as well, depending on the skill or the goal that is trying to be achieved. And then, so it's put it, okay, is the child needs to focus on greetings, okay, to greet people, to greet when he comes in class. So that means this is the first goal. And who in the classroom is going to be in charge to carry on that, the process, since the child arrives in school, once the child enters in class, how that is going to go, no? And who is going to ensure that that is happening every morning? How often does he needs to greet every time someone new enters in the class? As he has to greet the teacher, as he has to greet the parents, both. I mean, all of those small things are are taken into account. No, the whole step and process of that particular social skill and communications is broken down. No, then it's written as well, like we go down, and so just to say toileting at school, no, or toileting at home, how that process is going to carry on, which strategies are going to be used, which tools, and how are we going to evaluate the child is mastering one of the steps to reach that particular goal. And when we move into his strengths, okay, his interest, does he is interested in trains, in animals? Is he interested in doing puzzles, music, sounds? I mean, anything that's interests a child. So that opens another window. That means that through those interests and passions and of the child, we can work, we can use that to put it into these other goals. Meaning, like through songs, we can work on greetings. Through songs, we can work on toileting if he enjoys the songs and rhymes, for example. And so we put all of that down. We put as well what are those strategies that we're going to use. Are we going to use visual aids? In how those visual aids are going to be used, and how they will be displayed. It will be displayed at home, in school, in a particular setting, as we were talking about toileting. They will going to be displayed in the bathroom. Our skills around dressing and clothing. So are we going to put them in the child's room? So all of those things are listed, no? And when it comes for academic goals, the same goals, no? Where is the child, and we're gonna want to have him writing his name. Does he knows the letters? Which letters he knows? So the beginning is always on child's interest, so that we can actually adjust the strategies of what the child knows, you know. And one other thing that I also that is crucial, and I forgot to mention in at the beginning, that brings me to one of the points I wanted to stress. It is about the parents' continuity and intentionality. No, sometimes is we said, okay, those things are being worked at school, and so at home we just don't carry on, no, those strategies. But it's important when you are sitting down with people who work with your child and you want to discuss about goals. It's important that you look as well at what um, can be done at home as well, how you can carry on, that you ask the specialists that are working with your child how you can actually work on those goals at home as well, how you can accommodate what is done at school at home, so that the process goes into a line. Something that starts here continues throughout the life of the child, so that there is more meaningful engagement of the child, but at the same time, there is more meaningful learning of the child at the same time. So I have another question. An IP is individualized according to the child and should have a diagnosis, strengths and weakness, program plan, behavior plan, emergency plan. Yes, that's where we are. Absolutely, you should have like you should have your child's diagnosed. You should, like the person is saying, you should have like your strengths and weakness. I like to use more the word challenges, which challenges as having, and so your plan to start building and taking your child to that particular goal. And I like to say that it's extremely also important that you choose that when the group meets, at least for my experience, is to keep it short. Means like you are focusing in 1, 2, 3 maximum goals, you know, so that you move from 1 to 2 and to 3 instead of having 10, 15, 20, because by the end of the day will be not realistic, that that you could focus at home or at school on all of those, just because the way the school is also the way the school also occurs, no, like there is so many things going on, and unless your child has an one-to-one aid that is working constantly with him, but even in that particular case, some of the skills that your child will be focused on require also others, like the involvement of being in a group where we can actually point out what is happening in a group and he can be in that group, as greetings, for example, or the process to go to the bathroom at school is something that is done in a way publicly, a child raises his hands, asks to go to the loo, or in a way. So there are all cues that even though children with autism seems to miss, but having someone who is pointing that out in a group, in a social group, is crucial as well. So it's important to balance and to keep in mind that even though there is so many things that your child needs to focus, it's also important to prioritize what are the things that really we need to be focused on from the beginning, and then once those are in place, then we can move on others. So someone likes to share a template. Okay, yes, you can do that. You can do that as well. If you have a template, you can share it. Thank you. This is from Carl. Yeah.
Actually, the person is inquiring if you have
ask, sorry, like you to share a template of how. So yes, I have. Let me see if I can, because my computer froze this morning. But what I'm going to do is just to check on my email and maybe forward to my okay, and see if I can see. Yes, here. So let's do this just by the end of all the presentation of my talk. And so I want to just go through the so I will not stop because I need to check on my emails and see if I can share one and send it to my husband's computer through email, because my computer is just, I don't know if it ever happened to any of you, but just frozen. I can't really access to it. So I don't know what happened. It's been like that since yesterday. So one of my plans was really to show what I use. And I don't use, one thing that I like to say is that I don't use, so if I share it and then Christine will be able to share it with you as well, is that I don't use the word IAP, okay? I don't use the denomination to call it, I call it like progress report, okay? And I like to, yes, I could do that, Christine. So, the way that, and the reason I like to call it like that is because it's a progress work, and it can change as well, because sometimes, yes, you have set a particular goal and then that goal maybe needs to be adjusted because it's just too much for the child, because you are the specialist or the one-to-one aides or the school support teacher is just like seeing that this is just too much and pushing too much. So sometimes it needs to be readjusted as well. It's not something like a progress report or an individualized educational plan. It's not something rigid or static, and it's important to also to understand. It's something flexible that can be maneuvered and changed. It's like a Lego, where you put pieces and then you follow a sequence, right? And then, but at the same time, you can even do something different with those particular pieces. So at the same time, it's an individualized educational plan. It's not something rigid. And yeah, and so let me just while I'm by the end, I'm going to look for it and share it with Christine, and maybe have an extra time just to go through with you on how like which template I use. And it actually is it's a tool that I have developed myself. I mean, it's something that is not I mean, it's something that I use, my personal tool, because I also design particular tools, and I just find that was easy for myself to do it in that way. So the next thing, we were talking about like parent continuity and intentionality, and there is also one about why school is critical to develop social and life skills necessary for independence. I mean, the reason why I believe school is critical is because even though it's important to focus on a one-on-one support to the child, especially when it's come for specialized work with language therapists, but even though even there is some work with a social group and occupational therapists in general, is because studies have shown also that the greater improvement comes when a social skill is worked with a social group, you know, and when that person, that child, is involved in activities that also involve other people, and at the same time, the studies also suggest that implementing those social activities in a more natural settings, like, such as schools, gives to the child with autism also greater response and greater improvement. They just been working with that particular social skill by his own, yeah. And I mean, what are social skills? Social skills are just like rules, customs, abilities. They guide our interactions now with other people in the world around us. And in children with I mean, in those life skills and those skills are not for everyone are automatic, you know. But the wonderful thing also about life skills that they can be taught. I mean, people can learn on how with support on how to interact in a particular context. Saying that, we know, like, I think we know that autism is a spectrum, so not every child is at the same particular stage. Everyone follows their own way and their own development. And that's why, like, again, I repeat, it's important that any plan, anything is done based on the child development age and not into the child chronological age, so that we can follow that child particular development. So we don't care on what a child should be able to do at 6 or 5. And I know that for parents this is a struggle sometimes, and it's hard. But it's important also to keep the center, no, the center of that particular child, and focus on what he can reach, so that we can take those skills that we like to take in and those skills that we like to take in when those that we are working on are already in place. So I mean, one of and here comes important also here, and when we think about social skills and life skills, comes important. That's work, you know, that's president work around IPs in a plan, no? There was at the beginning, I also said, this is one thing that I just noted here and I didn't say it, that usually it's a tool that we use in a school setting, but it doesn't mean, for example, if your child is at home, is homeschooling, you cannot have a document, you cannot do an IP. You should actually, you know, and because that gives a record of what you're doing as well and who is working with your child. And it becomes important because when we are teaching social skills, it's so much important to conduct an assessment. And if you have done already this previous work on the plan that you are going to follow for your child, then from there, you can also select and choose which are the social skills that you like to focus on your with your child, no? Together with the team that you're working, either it's your teachers, occupational therapists, like we said before, the speech language therapists, and like we said before, like, I mean, what are those, I mean, examples of social skills are greetings, requesting for help, join a group, making a friend, manners, sharing. I mean, and so then you're seeing if, for example, you have already reached the point where your child comes to school and he or she waves with the hands to say hello, raises the hands on top to say bye, says bye verbally, or any other way that everyone has agreed as a greeting, you know, and that means, for example, that you can move on, join a group because they go together. Means the child has already interiorized the fact that you are coming into a place, you are greeting, and this is done. And so it is easy, for example, to, I mean, easy in the way that it opens the door, opens the path for your child to be in a group. You know, when teachers, for example, are at school and they are into groups doing some particular activity, and for him to come in and say hello, you know. And so that first part of like joining a group, entering a group is already done because he has already working on it in a more like large way, you know. And so that's why working on and to be on top of it for you as a parent, or to have like the person it is working maybe more straightly with your child, to be on top of it, because from where you started, you can there is always a connection from where you can move on to facilitate the life of your child. And in that way, you're facilitating and you are supporting and reinforcing also his independence or move into the world, you know. And at the same time, it's at the same time, if you are focusing on more academic goals, this also goes there, you know, looking at what he is interested in, can be a Lego, can be a song. You can introduce so many themes, so many topics, just by really paying attention of what your child's interests and passions are, and it's easier to enter there than starting for something that he's not moved towards. One other thing is, I mean, which is really important, that an IP also like really capitalize your child's strengths, and really it really like comes out their area of particular expertise, you know. And sometimes it's a way to discover something that no one have noticed, either teachers or even you as a parent, you know. It's also a way to prioritize that, because sometimes also in my experience, I found that it's really easy to focus on things that are not working or things that the child is not yet there, and then actually to look at what he's actually capable of his abilities, and how we can move on from those abilities, you know. And that's why, like, I like to call, like, my template of IP a progress report, you know, because we are really seeing a progress, even though it doesn't look like, because you're learning that maybe that goal is not appropriate. You're learning that actually he has gotten, and you can move into something else. You are discovering what your child interest might be, and it is wonderful to also to focus on that. That's only on things that are not working. I have something here. This is a question from special children, special people, borrowing some experience from the previous policy of making science subjects compulsory. It left many schools with no teacher and mass performance among learners. How is the program being planned and designed to ensure the equity should be reached both village based on base and town? Yet, even special needs teachers might not be enough, and the few that are there are not paid well considering the national standards per their extra effort rendered. But I mean, I like to say that this is, yeah, I mean, is something that I could not be, I could not agree more. I mean, also when we will discuss about what are the appropriate school options for your child, and I mean, in Uganda, you don't have so many options. No, there is you have special schools. There is units attached to mainstream schools and all-inclusive schools, and then by the end, at the end, there is private schools. No, and for them fortunate, or like I like to say, who can access to or can access to those settings. But I mean, but even there, it doesn't ensure really that your child is supported in the way that should be at the same time. And yeah, so I like just to go through my notes because I don't want to miss anything around social skills. And yeah, okay. I mean, when we speaking strictly around like the appropriate setting for your child to learn, I like also to say that there is none a perfect one or a best one for your child. It all depends on you and your child. I mean, the two actors are the child and the parents. And what is that you and your family want, you know? It is about more what do you need around the environment, you know? Do you want your child to have more special services? Are you comfortable again with to have IPs? Are you comfortable for your child to have standardized testing and evaluations? Or, I mean, is this is strictly important on what is that, where is your child, and why and here comes again the importance of the group and the team that you're working for your child, no, the speech therapists or the psychologists or the language therapists, and who everyone and you as a parent to come together and just to look for what is important. Because sometimes some parents also decided that prefer to have to work on toileting before sending the child to preschool, for example. And that is fine also. You want your child to be on top of something, you want him to focus on that at home and work on that at home, so that the work that it needs to be done at school is just to knowing how to ask to go to the loo. So you need to focus on that. You need to focus on letting know the child where to go, or and things like that. And so, or having your child, again, talking about homeschooling settings, so you want to focus on that. At the same time, you would like to have your child at home, and then and at the same way also joins for time to time other groups, and then you, and also here to determine which groups, you know, you want your child to be around a group, a social group of other children in a mixed environment, means there is a neurotypical children with around, or children with autism as well. No, it's like it's a decision that you are taking, that you are thinking, and then this is for your child. Then for other parents, it's crucial, it's important for his child to be from the beginning in a more in an environment which is defined by diversity, and it's important to look for that the school is also inclusive enough, means that your child is not only kept in in resources room, or in a particular room, just working and doing things by himself, you know, because that happens as well that sometimes that's also the word of being inclusive is also misused. But then when you are going, and it happens to me so many times, the child is actually not having any contact with the other children because he's always taking it out, and it is not happening. So this is also important that you as a parent, again, comes this continuity and intentionality to be on top, to really see what is happening, no? And here comes again the importance of the IP. Okay, this is the area, this is the goal, but how are we going to implement this? No, are it going to be alone? It's going to be doing it in a group, or mix by himself and with his entire group of peers. And then you have, like you say, like units attached with mainstream schools and private schools where, yeah, like I say fortunate, but actually it's not like I'm apologize for that, because in my experience, I also have worked with parents with children in private schools in Kampala. But it doesn't guarantee that your child is needs are taken into account and are following in a certain way, you know. But yeah, it can happen also that there is in that particular school or department, and where your child needs are taken into account, the right accommodations are put it in place. It can happen that the school has specialists that are working already with your child. They're often required one-on-one aid for your child to be with your child the whole day. And so there is some times of the day where the child goes with his aid teacher, and times of the day where the child is in class. And then I will let to Claire to talk about like more into what special schools and also mixes, schools with children also with learning disabilities or with challenges are also like in together, you know, and how that works. I think that she can be more knowledgeable around this. Okay, how about the children with special needs who don't attend school and are always visited from their homes by a therapist? Do they need an IP as well? Yes, I absolutely and highly recommend that, because although you are now at home or and having like specialists coming to your phone, you might decide to take your child also to a school, because I think everything is just like so flexible, right? Things change, things don't stay the same. And it's important for you to have something. And I always also recommend, even though you don't have an individualized educational plan, I highly recommend that the specialist that is coming to your home give you a report. You know, like you can decide with your specialist how often he will send that report, like every 3 months, every 6 months, twice a year. I mean, it's something that you decide together with the person that is working with your child and with you and with your family. But it's crucial because that give you, and then it's important that you ask for, okay, what are the things, what are the, the things that they are the areas of focus, how those areas of focus are being are being are I mean are being put in place, how they are working, which strategies is the specialist using, you know. Even though, like, if it's something that you are reinforcing, also you as a parent, like, what is your role as a parent, what is there you're doing, you know. And it's really, really crucial for you to have that, because it's your archive, you know, of your child progress and what has been done. Because it's sometimes when I meet I'm not in longer in Uganda anymore. I mean, I have moved and I'm now back in Italy. But in my experience working in Uganda with parents, sometimes I will require for informations or work done with other specialists just to have, and often parents didn't have nothing to show. This is because also it should be something that comes from the specialist himself, you know, or but sometimes it's not. This is why it's so crucial. Again, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, to have you as an agent, the advocate for your child, you know, the parent, and to have that, to have, because it is in your rights, you know, to know how things are actually progressing in your child's development, and how the person in particular is working with him or with her. So yes, I will say I highly recommend that as well. Even though it's not specifically an individualized educational plan, at least to have a document where the areas of focus are listed, where strategies to reach that goal are written down, and to see, and also the way of evaluation, how your specialist is actually evaluating that your child is reaching or not reaching or progressing towards that particular area of focus. Yeah. Then, okay, let me see if there is, I'm missing, please, Christine, if I'm missing some questions here, let me know. And so, like I was saying, there is not an appropriate way, or like private schools, special schools. It depends really on you as a parent and where your child is. But one crucial thing is that whatever option you decide, a special school, private school, or at home schooling, is that you have really clear in your mind what is that you want for that, for the decision you have made, you know. You want your child to be in a special school because you find that it will be easier for a child to interact with other people who share similar challenges. And it is important because that gives to your child, you find that this gives your child like more, he's more calm or happier, or in that particular setting are actually put in place services that you think that are so important for your child. Maybe maybe they are, you know, in a preschool age, they are more focusing into toileting, into greetings, eye contact, and you think that in another setting that will not be taken into account because things are actually happening really fast at school. In anywhere or any context where there is like a large group of people, interaction happens so fast that it's sometimes difficult to stop and point out of what is happening in the particular moment. So it can happen in a particular setting. All of those things are happening more in a more balanced way to allow the child or the person who is supporting your child to see those cues and also to see what is happening. No, so it depends really on you and what is that you want from and where your child is as well. No, and so one other thing is that, and of course, public schools as well. I mean, that assessments or tests, you need to also, that is important to consider, no? Like when once your child, I don't know, what are the ages of your children, and and where are they at the moment, you know? But if someone has, for example, you know, someone wants to write or to ask, and you have, you know, want to ask where, you know, where your child is at, what is the age of your child, and which setting is your child involved, and you have some questions, doubts around it. This is like something that we can discuss, and I will be happy to support you in this right now, because like, even though like it seems really so much repetitive, it's just really, there is not a best option. There is like a best option for you and your child, and it is also like you want your child to be in a public school or in a private school where like testing or other things are not accommodated particular for your child, and it's because you want him to experience what is like the reality, what is up there. This is also something that maybe your child can take it, and some other children cannot, and need more extra accommodation. That is also something that you need to think, no, with like you as a parent, but also with the people that you're already having this working on, and yeah. Then I think I have covered and said what I wanted to say to you all. So please ask questions, even though like I will share also my email or through Christine. If you have even the following day some other questions that you like to forward, you can also do that. Like I'm always really much happy to speak and to support parents. I mean, I'm not longer in Uganda, but it has been my country for almost 10 years. So, and I'm always happy to collaborate with parents and to give them support, because I also realize, I mean, being a parent is not easy. I mean, it's a progress work every day. And but it is important also for parents to have someone who can also you know, give them like knowledge around things and technical things that otherwise are sometimes difficult to decide by your own, you know, or to just to have all your doubts, and it's really normal. And children with autism have, it's a large spectrum, so everyone is at their own pace. So that's why also I didn't put like a sort of setting. But I kind of like focus on the general part of like social skills and why are those important. But one last thing that I like to say, even though it's true, there is not best fit environment. It's just that there is the best fit environment for you and your child. It is also true that this is also really important. It is also the studies are showing that also being involved in a social group is also extremely important for your child development. Um, so my child is, someone is asking, my child is 5, saying, my child is 5 years old, he doesn't talk and also rocks his head. Toilet habit is also a problem. What school will you recommend? Homeschooling or to go to school with other children? Again, this is like, I like to say, what is like, it is, I mean, for you as a parent, like is something that I cannot recommend to say like, okay, but it depends of the on you as a parent, no? It's just like you prefer, it is how who is with your child when you are not at home, you know? Like, because there is also that, no? There is on the parents, we need to work, we need to be at work in order to provide for our children. And so that means sometimes if they are at home, maybe at home is not the best a place for our children to be, because it comes easier for the people who are supporting our children to do things from them for them than actually to give time and to work with them towards the particular goal. In this case, uh, toilet, going to the toilet. So it can happen maybe like looking for a place. If this is your situation, your then I would recommend you to look for like a preschool where uh, your child needs will be taken into account, where your child needs will have the time to focus and working on his toileting habits and to learn from you know from just at the beginning to say it, to communicate the need, because even though starting with your child communicating his needs, and then he cannot hold anymore the pee or the poo, but he's communicating that he needs to go to the bathroom. This is one step, and this is a good job. This is a great step, you know. And then you need to move on into kind of really like helping him to control his bladder, or like how like to hold on and then just reach the place, you know. And sometimes a school setting or a preschool is easier if at home is a bit of a struggle. So I would like to just to say that to look at what is your situation at home. Do you have the time, or you are working? Like the person who stays with your child has the capacity to help your child through that process or not? So the answer is no, then perhaps a place in a context where there is more professionals, it will be easier for you and your child, you know. And then from there you can also work at home when you are at home with your child on that particular goal. So um, I will recommend that for you to do like a sort of assessment of your particular situation and see, do you have the people at home who can really help? Yes or no? Or maybe who? And so identify also that person at home. Might be maybe someone that is not particularly in charge of the care of your child, but you have noticed, for example, that your child have a particular feeling and bonding with your child. And so that person, even though it's not a professional, maybe has already like the access to your child to work with him towards that. So you can take that person and talk and do all the sort of arrangement. Then if this is not the case, then a school setting will be best. I would say, I would recommend. And yeah, I don't know if I answer, if I give more like depths to to your question, but I really highly recommend to do an assessment of your situation, and will you think really on what is your particular situation? Do you have the people, or even though it's not someone who takes care directly to the child, can you identify someone in your household who could? And if this is not the case, then you can look for more options outside your home. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that question. Yeah. I mean, this is. If I will just keep other minutes for question. In the same meantime, I will check here on my email, so I can forward them to my husband here computer, and so that we can look at this, like how I work with IPs. I mean, like what is the type of template that I use. So yeah. Yeah. Please feel free to ask questions, even though if I have been too fast, or just like, really let me know. I mean, if we can also go, if there is something that you were expecting for this session that I didn't cover or that I didn't mention, please go ahead and ask. Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer. Participants, we request you to please send in your questions to Jennifer, and maybe since she said she will share her emails, we will share that in the next email communication.
Maybe what we can do is, like, I will share my, you have my email,
yes,
Christine, and I don't know if you have the contacts of all these people who are actually in this meeting today. Do you have the emails?
I think we have most of the emails, but if you haven't sent your email to us before, please do so. But if you've shared it, no need to share it the second time.
Yeah.
Please share emails, and we'll share
so that I can, so I can forward to you, and you can forward to the parents, and it is, and when you want to see this, it's really easy going through that template to use, and because each area and each section of the progress report, is how I call it, is broken down. I mean, it's really explain what is that particular area about, and I will share one without names or schools as an example, so you can really see. And I apologize for that. I have actually had put it into just really sharing that, so we could actually have discussed and then look through it. But my computer is quite having some problems. So yeah, and so here's someone. I think so much. I would like to know any special needs school in Uganda, in particular around Jinja and in Kampala areas. Okay. So I this very example must be in Uganda is the school institution that you would recommend. It has a key focus on autism and evaluates the milestone as you explained this morning. Okay. So I had found that I worked with this is more like Bukasa, Muyenga area. I worked with like Clark Junior School. And even though they do not have a particular department for support for children, they do have the teachers and the eye to kind of really like trying to focus on the child, and they run assessments of your child, and then this is really also helpful to know if someone is needed, so they ensure that the parents are on board. There are all services, for example, that unfortunately, I will say parents need to pay for, as the child needs speech therapies or anybody before your child is enrolled. They run an assessment, and anything that is needed for a child to ensure that there is a really a fruitful experience for your child and your family in that particular setting is also, yes, it's in Muyenga, in Bukasa, is taken into account. If the parents, of course, like the school doesn't have that department and is not offering that the particular services, you are, I mean, these are extra costs, but let me just write it to you here. But Clark Junior School, the primary, is a preschool. Why I cannot not in this meeting? What happened? Sorry, just everyone. Okay. No. To everyone in meeting. Okay. I go here, and it is a primary. It's a primary and preschool as well. Sorry, this is Italian primary. Okay, and it's a preschool as well. And so even though they don't have a department, they actually first, for each child who comes to the school, they run an assessment, and then if there is any challenges that they found throughout the assessment, they will recommend like any other like specialists or tools needed to ensure a full experience in your child in the school, no? So they will tell the parents the child needs to work with a speech therapist, or if it is already working with a pool of other experts, then to also to accommodate ways in which that person can be in school and working also with your child. So that I found it is really easy for parents and to also have that, you know. And sometimes also happen that parents don't have yet a diagnosis of their children, and they can also help with it. So here someone is saying the Inclusive Education Assessment and Resource Service Center under the management of Kampala City Authority, supported by Ministry of Education and for Special Needs and Inclusive Education Departments and Children at Risk. Action Network Services offers free comprehensive assessment in auditory, physical, speech and language, and psychometric assessment rehabilitation services. It offers physiotherapy, occupational rehabilitation services, speech and language therapy, music and dance therapy, psychotherapy, CBT, and play therapy. Kindly call to set an appointment. So someone is already giving you from the public some information how to access to these services, which I didn't know, honestly. And then I have worked with occupational therapists and psychologists from HOPE, which are located in Bugolobi. I think some of you have known them. I had worked, I mainly have worked with children who were homeschooling. So, and so I'm going to mention the schools where I have good experiences. I personally was working as a support person at Clark Junior School. I'm not there, so I don't know whether they have someone else at the moment doing what I was doing there. But I know the process that they follow is in this way. And usually if it's a parent, the school cannot agree on the way to go, on the supports that your child needs to be in school, then I think, yes, okay. Yeah, so 5 minutes left. Okay, thank you. And so, yeah, I have good experience also at Kisu, but then there was like a good experience with the people I think that I met, that I happened to meet in that particular class, because unfortunately there is also that. I mean, everything on paper looks beautiful, but sometimes is what you find is a bit, you expect more maybe for private settings, but it often is not, in my experience. So yeah, and I will think about on yes, I'm going to stop now, Christine. I just want to say I'm going to just to say last, I will share this IP, and I will have a thought on which places I could recommend. But yeah, thank you very much all, and for having me. And I leave you with Claire. I hope I have helped you or have given you some more information. If it's not, please let me know. You feel free to send for Christine other question personally to me. I will share my email here as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for sharing with us your knowledge. I hope we've all she's answered most of our questions in terms of IEPs. She'll be available. She's gladly provided her email, and we will share that, I think, in the emails as well, the next communication that we send alongside her presentation as well. I know you have something to run to, so we'll just let you run to your next responsibilities. But thank you so much for your time, and yeah, we'll keep in touch. So in the interest of time, we'll have to run to Claire, Mrs. Claire Wavamuno, who is going to discuss with us special needs education, special needs and inclusive education. She is a founder of Hill Preparatory, which is a school that has provision for special needs children. Claire, please take it on from here. Would you like me to project your presentation? Claire Wavamuno. Is on. So Claire will basically give her experience running a special needs school, her recommendations in terms of choosing a school, and her advice. Just give us 1 minute or 30 seconds as I get to Claire. Yes, sorry, Claire had a network challenge, but she's going to join us shortly. Hill Preparatory is a Ugandan school. It's in Naguru. I'll just project her presentation.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, as we wait for Claire, yeah, as we wait for Claire, maybe we can ask Annette to jump in and tell us about the KCCA clinic. She's been trying to share with me information on IEPs, that there's a standard IEP. She mentioned there's a standard IEP from KCCA for KCCA schools. Maybe she can tell us about them as we hold on for Claire during the call again.
Good morning. Thank you, Christine. The KCCA Inclusive Education and Assessment Resource Service Center. It used to be the former EAS, the Education Assessment and Resource Service Center. It has been in existence for more than 10 years. What we offer, we do comprehensive assessment in physio, in speech and language, in psychometric, psychoeducation. Basically, we do all the assessment, audio assessment, optical, all the assessment. Then we also offer rehabilitation services, physiotherapy, speech and language, play therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, all the therapies there is. We are located inside Natural Blue Primary, and then we work kind of like a clinic. We have different clinic days and specialists. So the center is education centered or oriented. So we do a lot of stuff after a comprehensive assessment. We have IEP meetings where we set specific goals with specific timelines. And also, of course, we in that IEP, depending on the assessments, we put the accommodations for the child. And then we go to schools to train the teacher of the child, or the teacher of the child how to do this accommodation. Then we follow up this child. So basically, that's what we do. So we have a KCCA IEP template, which I'm going to forward to Christine, either today or tomorrow. And I do request people come and see what we do, come and learn. We also do teacher trainings. Come and learn. The center is there, it's free of charge. Everything is free of charge. Please do come and visit us. Thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you so much, Annette, for sharing that. We still don't have Claire on the call as yet. And she was on, but I think her network is playing games with her. Then Annette, we just wanted to find out, can we visit the homes of the children in Nachivubo Blue? Is that a possibility? Hi, Annette. Oh, yes, Claire is here.
Christine, it's not really, the center is like a clinic. We have like so many parents that come in. We have more than 500 children we follow up. You really can't go to their homes because of confidentiality, but you can come to the center and learn more about what the center does, and people can bring in children and you can all work together. Yes, but you can come and know more about the services we provide. Yes.
Okay, then. Thank you so much, Annette. I'll reach out to you for the information and maybe we can share it in our communication. We'll quickly go back to Ms. Claire Wavamuno. She's rejoined the call to give us her discussion on special needs and inclusive education. Claire, please, the floor is yours. Someone is asking if you can provide the center. If you can type it in there. Carl is asking. Claire is here.
Hello, hello. Hello, can you hear me, Christine?
Yes, Claire, we can hear you.
Hello. Okay, thank you. Okay,
We can hear you.
Thank you for thank you for the invitation. It is a pleasure to work with a parents-led group like yourselves, and we're speaking the same language. And I thank the previous speaker who talked about individual education programs. She called it progress reports. Thank you, Christine, that you offered to help me with the presentation. I'm going to do it together, including reading the messages. Before I make my remarks, I want to say that what I'm going to share with you is my own personal story that has brought us to this area of inclusive education. But I also want to recognize there were parents who were before me whose experiences helped us to go in special education. For example, Julia Lule, as a parent, started the deaf school in Uganda. Mrs. Barlow, Society, Children with Physical Disabilities, and Mrs. Jacqueline Gavazi started the special needs unit at Shimoni. And then, of course, there are church operations in Eastern Uganda for children with visual impairments. Those were there for us. So, and also the work that we have done so far with a dedicated staff and dedicated people who we journey with. So when we have other stories, which I'll be talking about the future, this is simply my story as a parent and how I got involved in integrated special education, its evolution to inclusive education, and then finally the way forward. So Christine, oh, the audio is not good? Okay. Is that better?
Maybe you can do it without the headset.
Yeah, is that better now?
Yes, for now. But
Is
if you
that
can
better?
do without, yes, if you can do without headsets, then the better.
Okay, then I'll just thank you again for about my experience as a parent-led organization, and I want to inform me who are parents and led the Leave it open. Hello. Yeah, we got disconnected. Christine, can you take?
Jessica, please carry
Yeah.
on.
Yes, please take me to the first slide, Christine. Is that better now? Yes, thank you. Thank you. So that picture, they say picture, on the left-hand side is my daughter, Nachanzi. At the time she was diagnosed at the age of 3.5. And the picture on the other side is her as a grown-up, as a specialist, as a librarian in the school at Hill Preparatory School. So many of you will relate to the anxieties of discovering that your child has a problem. At that age, we didn't know what autism was, but she had odd behavior, not knowing that language was her problem. She could bang her head repetitively. She had an obsession with water. She had inappropriate behavior. She was hyperactive. She had no idea of danger. She could go into the road or the fire. She could jump on the conveyor belt, and you needed to have to hang on to her all the time and go around apologizing everywhere. But once we were able to discover her problem, we went to the doctors around Uganda, and eventually we went to the famous doctor in the UK, Professor Michael Rota. And worldwide famous, that is our doctor here in Mulago Psychiatry Department, recommended us there, having gone through so many. But the idea of finding that there's a problem came from an observant and dedicated teacher who told me something was wrong with her. And that's how it began. So I used to take her to the regular school and also take her to the teacher's house, because by that time, the teacher had lost her job. And so those were the days before UPE. And so there were a group of children who lived around there who were not going to school anyway. And my daughter was accepted in that community, in the living room of the head teacher and another child with special needs. So that is how integrated special education started, in a small play group. And in between, we used to go back to the doctor in the UK, and they explained to us more and more what those challenges were with speech and language. They called it aphasia. And it's just that the odd behavior was coming from her misunderstanding of language. So she could hear, but her understanding of language was not good at all. It did not come naturally. It was like talking to someone in Chinese. So after that, we were able to give her enough attention. And we went to the UK several times. And at one time, they told us that we needed to go and live there because the therapy was long-term and the specialists were there. And we as a family opted to come back here and stay in Uganda and continue to do what we had already tested as a good thing for us, for her, and for the other children. So the other children were not going to school anyway, but they would provide a good social interaction with her. And she, on the other hand, and her family would be able to share whatever we had for daily living with a dedicated teacher. And I remember having to spend an hour every day with her, uninterrupted time, to teach her language, and so that she could pick up vocabulary and understand. And the more she began to understand, the more vocabulary she could build in her head, and the more the odd behavior could be addressed. So that is Nachanzi. So can we now go to the third slide, please, Christine?
Yes, Claire, I've up to the next slide.
Okay, the third one.
The one on special needs and inclusive education.
After the photograph.
Yes.
Okay. So so I'm going by the talking points that were given to me about special needs and inclusive education. And special needs is a limitation that hinders one's ability to perform any given task as expected. That's the core. And then special needs education. Can you now see the slides, Christine?
Are they not visible?
They are not visible.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I think
Okay,
I may have this for a bit.
Okay.
Yes, I hope it's visible now.
Yes, now I can see it. Thank you. So for those who did not see the slide, take them back to the picture. They can see Nachanzi then and Nachanzi today. Okay, there you are. The first one is when she was diagnosed, and the second one is when she's an employed and successful librarian at school. Thank you. We go to the next slide. So once we've identified what special needs are, then special needs supports those children that have been identified with a limitation. An integrated special education allows learning disabled children to study along their regular counterparts in appropriate ratios for their mutual benefits. So the ratios have to be appropriate. And thereafter, that has evolved into inclusive education that allows children from all, regardless of their abilities, to have equal access to mainstream learning environment. So that is the evolution. We can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. The next slide now talks about what are special needs schools. We've had the presentation from Jennifer, and these are schools that cater for mild to severe disabilities. They could be hearing, mental, visual, physical, and learning. And many of these are traditional. You can see it. But the ones with learning disabilities, such as speech and language, dyslexia, Down syndrome, attention disorders, behavioral, they're not very easy to detect or to understand, like the traditional ones. And whatever the case, there's a wide spectrum of these conditions. So support normally comes from training of children and parents and caregivers and counseling to both in order to fit in the social environment. Can we go to the next slide, please, Christine? Yes. Why is it important to have children with special? Yeah. Let's go back to why is it important?
Back to that.
Okay.
You can keep with the discussion as I.
But continue the discussions. Yes, yeah. Why is it important that children are in inclusive environments? This is important to be able to reduce the barriers and stigma. And sometimes the stigma and barriers come from home and they're brought to the school. So as long as someone is in an inclusive environment, that is good for the whole community. And to develop social skills in all the children, the ones with special needs and the ones without special needs, to give life skills and job-related skills for their developments, So they need to learn not to be taken too gently, that they need to compete in the world around them to be able to be independent and mix and not marginalized. It improves communication skills. It improves their self-esteem to strengthen the capacity of the education system on teaching them soft skills to be able to cope in life. It's not so much how much algebra you have, but how well you interact with people and how reliable you are. And it teaches children and teachers to respect diverse talents, nurture them for the benefit of the whole community. Then we can go to the next slide. I was asked to talk about my experiences, and my experience is over a long decade, long period of time. So I've divided them into the first decade, 1988 to 1997, and just some highlights of the experience in the field. This is the talking points that were given to me. So local and international diagnosis was made, and the decision was made to come back home and work from home. Uganda and in our community, there was recognition from the Ministry of Education. Special needs teachers needed to be got, and specialists and speech therapists needed to be got, even though training institutions were not in place at that time. So we're working mainly with people who are interested and who love children and learn on the job, and then eventually go and graduate. Is getting key supporters like patrons, members, the board, the PTA around the cause. I shall not mention them, but they're high-ranking people in the community. Some others who are members who took the baton of the cause, and members of the parent community in the PTA and the board members. So the experience also has been that there's been denial by some parents in embracing integration. They didn't find it easy. They could sometimes bring someone with special needs to you and bring their other children to another school. And most times, they pay for the fees of the other children, and then they pay last. So all these make the child sometimes feel not quite with it. But that denial is understandable. Then there's identifying and journeying and training and maintaining the right personnel. We talked about people who have been extremely loving, extremely professional, who have a calling to work for such children. Because if you don't have the patience, it is a difficult job to do, day in, day out. And then we were able to break through the education system so that individuals have succeeded. Remember, our goal at starting was just let all the children excel individually, and they did. Our first batch of P7s, they got one got a second grade, an upper second at university and went back for a master's. So the regular children did not lose out as long as the ratio was okay. They would stimulate their colleagues, and their colleagues would also help them because the close supervision from small classes helped both of them to excel. We engaged stakeholders to do public awareness, governments, educationalists, medical profession, and anybody who was interested in this sort of field, we would work with, get their input. There was an experience in finding a good location and our own location and constructing the premises and documenting the project and vision as an ongoing academic thesis. So I had an opportunity to do this as an academic piece of work. And instead of presenting a thesis, this very project, a live project, was a document. A social project, although it was, this sort of work was done mainly for economic projects. Funding has been our main challenge all along. And the first point is has been the family and friends, for which we are eternally grateful. But their gifts, their donations, their sponsorships, and to date, their loads, and all sorts of ways to be able to make ends meet. Our pioneer P7s sat in 1997 when there was nothing special for them. They just had to struggle and go through. Those are the people. Let me say, one of those who had special needs, apart from Nachansi and apart from another young boy who had an upper second, there is one boy who's a chef who has learning disabilities. He's a chef at Sorority Flying School. So after all these years, they've made it in life. We also restructured the company from an NGO or an NGO type of project whereby if you don't have money, then you don't operate, whereby you need to meet your costs and pay. And there were other related non-academic education, such as going to the World Special Olympics in 1995, and we went for subsequent ones after that. Just by the excitement of going and preparing and getting parents and the public was very, very good for us, for integration. Next slide. The experience in the second decade, that is 1998 to 2007, was to manage the stigma despite empirical evidence of excellence of both categories of children. After P7 and onwards, the stigma was still there. And with further engagement in sports and music, and farming and all those non-academic goals, there's much to identify where these special children are. Makerere University speech and language degree was in place for the first time, special education degrees and diplomas. And all these we were part of them. We were delighted to be able to support the students in their practical work when they were getting these degrees. Also, the Uganda national exams, transcribing and extra time for students with special needs. And for the first time, that was done at the school or in Uganda in 2003. And then the experience in the second decade was that we had some long-term relationships of donors and supporters, such as Students for Students of Austria for 18 years. These were young children in a school, in an international school in Austria, who got together and they used to make bake sales, and at the end of the year, send that money to sponsor vulnerable children with special needs who could not afford the specialist care. And then, of course, we were happy that during that decade, there was a draft policy of inclusive education in the Ministry of Education at that time. So again, the experience in the field. Now I go to the third decade and just some highlights during that period, 2008 and 2017, whereby we have to balance between, is it a social enterprise? Are the services supposed to be free, or are they for profit, or are they cost covering? We went through a soul searching because many people, people who have disabilities, don't necessarily belong to one social category that can afford these services, which are highly specialized. So we had to sort of work through a hybrid and get away from the mentality of government etuyambe sort of thing. Somebody else should take responsibility for your need. Whereas if you have a partnership, the two of you can come together and do something. remember, during all this time, we needed to not only restructure and do the business planning and the legal work, you are also doing construction at the same time. And, we are not necessarily the best builders, looking for land, etc., and continuing to expand. But also, now that we've changed strategy, we also had to meet statutory obligations and put records right from the beginning regarding, for example, returns, providing returns to the registrar of company and other obligations, financial obligations. In this same third decade, that's when we opened our half Olympic-sized swimming pool, which had been inspired by having participated in the World Special Olympics in 1995. There was so much hype about it, and so in the school and the public, and that therapy for them, training, but even opportunities for work and opportunities for tournament. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can hear
Hello?
you.
Okay, yeah. So the experience in the field in the third decade, 2008 to 2017, we talked about the restructuring, the social mission versus the commercial vision, and the hybrid, meeting returns, opening the half-size Olympic-sized swimming pool. And now we're talking about refining our products because it seemed like we were open to all and sundry. And it was difficult. So there is what we offer now, we are clear, is regular primary education following the national curriculum. And then children with learning disabilities, which are mild, can be given extra time and extra care and different techniques, but they are mainstreamed in the classroom. And they too do their primary leaving education. And then there are those who are not mild, maybe moderate to maybe even severe, who now are housed at the special needs center. So in the center, that is where we have the assessments and the individual education programs, speech and language, functional literacy, self-help skills, internships, counseling, job readiness. And within the special needs center, the children are again subdivided into groups, including those who are very young, those who are older, getting ready, young adults who are doing vocational work, those who are hyper and can distract their colleagues, and those who are, and all of them have to do some sort of functional literacy to be able to cope with life. And this is where we have the child psychologists, the occupational therapists, the speech and language, the special needs children. They're given more care than PLE academic education. And for that, Ashoka network of social entrepreneurs recognized us, gave me the fellowship of an Ashoka Fellow in recognition for transforming society using entrepreneurial skills for the good of the community. And the school in its own right also won the recognition as a changemaker school in the Ashoka network of the East African office. So experience in the field, again, now we're in the 4th decade, from 2018 to 2021, and looking forward, where we're going. And we were saying that after 30 years, that is 2018, we had a grand event with testimonies of the former students. The regular children have excelled in life, and the special needs, a good number of them have, they are where they are. Minor Chanzi happens to be the example, but there are a whole lot of them. They are in music, they are in sports, they are in catering, they are in, one of them was asked to be a clown, and she, they loved her just by being a clown. Others are happily married with children. It's incredible how well they're doing. And some of the brainy children who were actually not necessarily very rich, but who were able to get sponsorships. I know one of them is doing aeronautic engineering in the UK, and others went to do medicine and pharmacy and did extremely well. So regular children and special needs children have excelled. And then school maintained the original reflection of society across social backgrounds, so that we need to have cost covering fees, we need to get sponsorships and subsidies to cater for those people who accept to be with your children, because others have a choice and can go somewhere else and they don't like it, even within their own families. And then we established a daycare center in 2018, which doubles as a training unit for the young adults. And we have established a restaurant. So outlook, where we're going forward from now on, is that the challenges remain there. There are gaps in the services provision, and there's inadequate number of staff, of specialists. It takes long to train them, it takes long to maintain them, it takes long to pay them. So we have to be sustainable, and we're in a digital age where we have to look ahead. But we have a dedicated staff and who have a calling, and we need to maintain them and keep them together as we grow the numbers of people who are working with us. So we cannot overemphasize the role of partners. Currently, we have one with Special Olympics, Uganda, Rotary Movement, Caesar Foundation, where one of our former students is a successful saxophonist, and he's well-known, modern jazz, and he does also his own compositions. We have the Students for Students, who we work with from Austria for 18 years. We have Educate Me, who sponsored some children. We have Vision for Africa, which also sponsors children. We have Watoto Church, and we have Little Cranes, with whom we share facilities, building facilities. I just want to end with a call for more partnerships. And so we're delighted to be part of this network of parents. So the last slides just show pictures. Can we go to the next slide, please? Oh, yes, there's advice. What advice do we give to the parents when choosing appropriate school options for their children with special needs? Much of it was captured by Yanifa, and it tallies with what we have here, because we start with the parent's concern and we go to the child's ability. Those are the two starting points. What bothers me so much as a parent, and what can my child do? And build from there. We have the nature of the school, where we need to have a true partnership. Exactly as she was saying, it's the long term, and we need to also make sure that the long-term benefits come out. What we do is for the good of the children, so that they are not, so that they're assets in the community and not liabilities. We shall not be there for them all the time. So you also look at the staff qualification, and it's not enough to have the paperwork. You need to have the empathy. We have seen how our dedicated staff worked before they got their diplomas and degrees. And we also need to check if there are peer groups with whom you feel comfortable, and also deciding between getting specialist help, specialist care, or going to regular education. Some parents have a difficult decision to make. They say, I want my child to do ABC, and you know that the child, before doing ABC, needs to have the potty training. But this was covered in Jennifer's presentation. And specialists that parents will think about. Slides are just photographs of the school. Can we go to the photographs? Yes. Okay, the one on the side is a little girl, Lorraine, doing some beadwork, which helps with fine motor skills. There's a picture there of Changemaker School that was welcoming one girl who had been to the Special Olympics in the United States, and she had done well. And you can see the children, some of them are regular, some of them have special needs. You can't tell. You can't tell. So that's the beauty of the social working, non-academic work. We go to the last slide. Okay, there's Feni, who had won silver medal in his 25 meters freestyle in Special Olympics in Costa Rica, 2012. And I think there are some other pictures there. Oh, my last point is just to say that children are a blessing. And thank you all for sharing. Yeah, to start empathy, and there's the logo of the school. All can benefit when they work together. Thank you for the invitation. And Christine, you can help me with the questions.
Thank you so much, Claire, for your presentation, for sharing with us your experiences, success stories. It's been quite a journey for you and your team, but well done. That's amazing work that you're doing, creating an inclusive learning environment for children with special needs. I'm sure our participants do have some questions in regards to, your discussion in special needs education and inclusive education. So if you have a question for Claire, please either unmute yourself or type it out in the chat, and she'll be able to respond to it. Thank you. Anyone with a question? Could be maybe specific services that are provided at Hill Preparatory that you would like to know about. So the question, please type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself or raise your hand for us to unmute you. Also, we have a question in the chat. Thank you for sharing. Person says, thank you so much for sharing. Please, I would like to know at what age a child can join your school.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because for this type of problem, the earlier you start, when you recognize something, the better. We start from age 3.5 and onwards. Remember, pre-COVID, there was a daycare. So the earlier we start with you, the better. And you go to the special needs, they go up to young adulthood, around 18 years old. Okay, and they would like to know if you have a boarding section.
and where your address is. I know the school is in Naguru. Maybe you can specifically tell them where exactly in Naguru.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for the question. The school is located in Naguru on Katalima Crescent, just up the road from Kembabazi. On your right-hand side, there's a kiosk that sells airtime. You take that and you drive for about 500 meters, and the notice is outside. The signpost is outside. However, you can also check us out on the website and other digital channels for more information. There are no boarding facilities to a great extent. Just like the presentation earlier on in the morning, the working with special needs children, it works constant and school. And so whatever with the home. Oh, okay. I've seen Trey's dad who's happy with the progress of Trey. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. I will go to the next question. Someone would like to know, what advice would you give to a parent of a young child on how they can deal with diagnosis and how they can help the child?
I didn't get it. About prognosis, is it?
I think diagnosis for if a child has been diagnosed with autism, what advice would you give to the parents and how they can help assist their child?
Okay, yes. We take into account the report that was given by the medical people, and we do our own assessment actually to start and hear from you the current situation and make an observation. And actually together we work on a plan that is agreeable to you and to us. Someone also mentioned the fact that there is a congestion, and that is true. And we cannot sit and wait for us to build the other buildings, but we have spread out the outside facilities to be able, in any case, COVID also came on board, but that is well taken so that we extend the services to the outside areas, specifically to help children to be spread out more and to be in touch with the nature, with reality. I just missed another question there by someone.
Yes, there's one that says, okay, Trisha, yes, we will look into work in the cases here at Autism Care Uganda. And then there's a question from Martin that says, how have you enabled children with special needs to do their PLE exam?
Yeah, the ones with special needs, first of all, the lobby has gone through. First, we had applied that they would be given another 15 minutes in their exams. But now those 15 minutes have been extended to 45 minutes. And remember, we don't work alone. So the whole body of special needs people have come aboard. And now there's asking that let them do the exams with extra time. But also those
Unfortunately, it seems Claire dropped off again. I had dropped off as well. Maybe I see Rita, your hand is up. Hopefully she can rejoin and then you can ask the question.
Okay, that's fine. I'll wait for her to come back.
Okay. Rita, I have a question from Claire Amanya in the chat, please. She's asking you how the UK is and thanking you for sharing all the good mobilization in the group. I don't know if you would like to share about the event you were planning, and if it's something that's still, oh, Claire is back, but we can have that discussion later on. Claire is back. Please pose your question to her.
Thank you so much, Claire. Your presentation is such an amazing and inspiring one. However, I just have a simple question. And as a pioneer in special needs education in Uganda, what are your contributions towards shaping the policy of inclusion in Uganda? If any, what are the impacts noticed so far? Because I studied in Shimoni Demonstration School where we had a section for special needs. It was a unit, but on entrance, every parent would see like we are an inclusive school, but in there, those kids were isolated and put separate. So we used to call them abnormal children. And we never knew why they were behaving like that, because even the school didn't take an input to educate us that those kids were different. They needed our help. They needed our input. Even the Ministry of Education never came out to like inform us of how we would be of best help to kind of improve on those kids' life other than stigmatizing them. So I just want to find out what your contributions are towards shaping the policy of inclusion in Uganda. Thank you.
Over to you, Claire. Thank you, Rita, for your question. I think she dropped off again. Yes, Claire, I don't know if you are able to get the question that Rita asked about shaping policy, inclusive education in Uganda. No, Claire, I'm not sure if she's able. I don't know if you're able to hear us. Please confirm. Okay, it seems we don't have her.
Yes, thank you for
Someone
that
else has a question? If she joins again, she can answer both questions.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
maybe you, I don't know which, you have two devices on, so there's feedback from one. I don't know which one you can, I know there's a Samsung and then there's one that's under your name.
Yes, I've taken off one of them.
Okay.
And I'm using the other one. If I
Okay.
get you correctly, one question was something about KCCA. We'd love very much to partner with them and see what they have going, because together, I'm sure we can do something when we are speaking the same language. I don't know who brought that point up. I'd like to follow up on that one. The second comment was about the area in Shimoni, the special unit in Shimoni. That is true. The evolution is like that. To change a system, you just have to continue. It doesn't happen overnight. And so yes, I did go there, and yes, I did see that the place was nicely set up for the children, and at least there was something. This was a step, because others were mainly keeping them back in their homes. And so what we thought in our side was not to have them in a segregated unit, but to have them in the mainstream school. And that's why special education started, special integrated education started at Hill Preparatory School. So the point is, even after 30 years, the policy of inclusion has been adopted. It was taken in 2007. And even then, to put it into practice, we still need to push more effort. There's no funding for it, for people who are involved in it. And we have to pay for the specialists, and we have to do the advocacy. And the more we make noise about it and knock on their doors, the more the message comes out over and over. And the results will come out. We just have to continue. And so I was particularly happy when I saw that there are services in KCCA that are provided within that setup. Already that is a good step, because until then, it wasn't there. And the work had to be done as a private initiative. So it's a bit much for small groups of people to work on a big national global issue unless we come together and make more noise about it. And sometimes you can be doing things, but you don't even have the money for a supplement. If you want to put a supplement in, for example, a newspaper, you'd have to pay 5 million shillings. And so 5 million, if you divide it into, if you say I need to eat food and drive children to and from school, your priorities change. But the more we work together, the more noise we can make, and make it fashionable to be inclusive and not just a paper statement somewhere in the office. And I want to give you credit, Rita, for the way you have mobilized the parents. I'm extremely impressed the way you have done it. And I think this is a good platform to move forward with some action. Constant action.
Thank you, Claire, for your response. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but maybe Rita, you could use a minute or two just to maybe have a word with us, how you're mobilizing parents, what are you mobilizing them for, and what you would like to see parents do moving forward collaboratively. But thank you so much, Claire, for your time. Thank you for your knowledge and sharing with us your experiences with Hill Preparatory.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. In most cases, I want to be inclusive by using English. However, I'm just proud of where I come from. So anyway, so I'll do a mix of two. So to me, taking the initiative to organize the activities on whatever that's going to happen in December, it was a step to remind everyone that what we learn on here shouldn't only stop on presentations and us making it just on a virtual setting, but can we make a step forward and put it on the ground? Yes. Parents are slow. Nina parents coming mukaboxi, Rita, don't give up. We are last minute people. But I've kind of adopted to stay in a country where like someone would tell you Christmas settings and Easter, Bazmarada. Why? Because they're planning way ahead of time. And that was to me to help me plan for my journey to Uganda. And can I get a ticket and then come back and celebrate it with you? Or it's an event where only 2 people are going to turn up. And I won't have that impact, and the drive and demo will be somehow like killed. But either way, whether I'm there or not, I'm sure that that setting has to go on. Why? We just feel we need to celebrate us. Ever since Autism Uganda put this onto this platform, we've learned so much. Why can't we come together and celebrate the knowledge we've learned here and help our kids go a step further? So to me, I'm calling upon all parents, please make sure on those days, era ngenda bakubira omudomo this time around, November yenna, munaneta mwako, nze mbawoninze. But to me, I have a drive every time I see Kelly's success. When Balette have stories, I'm not here to make you laugh, but I'm here to bring the positive side of autism. I know all of us at one point we break down seeing what we go through with our kids. But can we look on the positive and look into future engineers? Claire, I mean, Wavamino, yes, you've said, you know, the beauty you've seen your child get into the receptionist, then rather she's in charge of the library. Can we have more librarians from the youngsters we have from our platforms? Can we have more artists like Kelly Avayo? Can we have drummers like Jaden or Asad? Yeah, I'm pretty sure if we all hold hands through all these initiatives we put as parents, I know in 20 years' time, we'll have so much bright kids that betwenyumirizamu. Why would we kwenyumirizamu mu baana abazungu? Why? Because their parents have done so much. Can it mirror us into the African setting till the abafebe ba shining? Yes, we've brought up athletics, bagamba long distance, they bring in Kenya, Uganda, Jetuli, but in special needs, can we now also shine out? And they're like, wow, special needs in Uganda, abazadde bekolamu omulimu, and they can do something. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's where my drive is. Thank you so much.
Yes, the thing I love about Rita is when she speaks with passion. You literally feel what she says straight to your bone. Thank you for that passion about, you know, supporting parents, supporting the children. You just never know who you're really inspiring, who you keep going with your words of encouragement. We really do appreciate all your efforts, Rita. We really appreciate your efforts. We don't even mind the bombarding messages every now and then. It just keeps us in check. Unless, Claire, you have any other comments, last words before we can close the meeting?
I want to thank you all for your responses and to tell you all that we are together in this thing. Rita, I'm delighted by your passion. That's the passion that we need for all of us to move forward. So we're on board. Thank you, Christine, for your help to present.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our dear speakers, Jennifer that left earlier, and thank you to Claire, as well as you, the participants, for your time. We will please be informed that the next session, maybe the last year, will be the last Saturday of November, this coming month. We will share meeting details with you, but you can also reach out to us and share ideas of what topics you'd like to see us cover, so that, you know, we also know what you're really interested in. Feel free to email us, and I've sent a link for the WhatsApp group. It's a parent support group where you can share your inquiries, your queries, and someone will be able to respond to you. It has therapists, it has doctors, it has parents of children with autism. Please allow me close the meeting. Thank you, and we will see you in our next discussion. Have yourselves a great weekend.